not the most compelling
presentation
venue from either side.
I think you're safe with your job.
You're right. So far on that level, I was at that lunch this morning with President Trump and the Vice President. The content was off the record, but I will tell you, he's much more compelling making this case in person than he was on the teleprompter tonight. That's going to matter. On the good side for him, though, John, is that they're not going to blow anybody away with their presentation either. So this comes down to who did more to assure their base that they're fighting the right fight.
But is that all this is about? That's the key part of the question. Did anybody move anybody who counts? Did the president either solidify his support? We've seen some cracks. I don't want to overmagnify them. There's just a handful right now. But some cracks among Republican senators, some cracks among Republican-leaning organizations like the Chamber of Commerce saying, stop. This is starting to hurt the economy. Do what the Democrats say, essentially. Reopen the government and negotiate over the border. There's cracks. Did the president help his cause there? We'll find out as he goes to Capitol Hill tomorrow. Did the Democrats lose it? Did the president win over any Democrats or Democratic-minded voters or institutions? I think not.
That's really the key question, is whether or not the president could use this very important event that is supposed to be saved for big national or international events to explain to not his base, who already believes him, but the people who aren't sure what this is all about and don't really get what this is all about, explain to them and convince them, or at least let them, make them start to look at this in a different way. And that wasn't what he did. That was what he did at all.
Hold on one second, because we fact-checked the president. Let's be fair on both sides. Did anything stand out to you, what we heard from Speaker Pelosi and Senator Schumer?
I didn't hear any factual errors. I missed about the first 30 seconds, but the rest of it, it was standard political rhetoric. And I think the thing about the president that's so different is that in these kinds of addresses that are thoroughly vetted, written by teams of speechwriters, he still will include, 5, 6, 7 misleading, dishonest claims.
But there was a different tone to me. I mean, what was interesting to me about Donald Trump tonight was the wall didn't come first, it came last. And
no national emergency.
And no national emergency, exactly. But normally, when you hear the president giving political speeches and everything, it's the great big beautiful wall, and maybe it's not a wall, it's slats or whatever. But this was last because he talked about, we want to give you more money for things the Democrats want. They want more agents, more immigration judges. They want more humanitarian assistance. No Democrat is going to say no to that. In fact, they've already shown that they will approve money for that.
A lot of Republicans have said no to that in the past.
Right. But then he went through his entire list, and then he said, as part of overall security, we also want $5.7 billion for a physical barrier, a steel barrier, which is what the Democrats want. But it was last. It was not first. And I think that's part of what Dan is talking about, the question of who was he trying to appeal to here? It's not the base. He was trying to sort of make his case that I'm not just about a wall, when in fact he is.
Now, look, that's an interesting point. That is different. But, Nia, it's also about, well, what's the ultimate context of all of it? And he was still strong and harsh and partisan on this. They're bad people coming across. They're doing bad things, and we have to stop them. So even though Gloria's right, there was an expansion here. And that might be more difficult for Democrats to deal with saying no to those things. But did that really become the new narrative?
No, because I think Donald Trump is stuck in the same narrative of these folks coming across the border, drugs coming across the border, a crisis. We obviously fact-checked that. He talked about heroin a bit. He did have this argument, the economic argument about African Americans, which we haven't really heard him say that much before. But all of this was, I mean, if you look at Donald Trump's Twitter feed, if you have paid attention to anything he has said over really the last 2 weeks even, it's all here. There's no real new material. And in some ways, we went into this speech knowing that there would be no new material, and they felt like the setting, the sort of grandeur of the office would change it. But the problem with the idea of the grandeur of the office is that Kanye West has been in that office.
Can I just give you a little?
I think it just didn't work for him.
Did he mention terrorism? Tell me if I'm wrong.
I don't think so.
I don't think
he didn't mention the numbers. He didn't quantify it the way they have been.
Exactly.
I think they learned their lesson a little bit. So, let's score one for accuracy and argument. Go ahead.
Just one piece of reporting. I'm getting a note from somebody who's in the Trump world who sees data, who says that the data that they have inside Trump world shows that it's a win for him to talk about border security for people who don't, even for people, and especially for people who don't like him personally, and that it is bad for those on the left who come up against that. Now, I'm not saying that that's data that I've seen. I'm just saying that that's the kind of data that is driving the kind of message
but that has been
we've seen
true
tonight.
That has been true. This is why he was the Republican nominee. All the Republicans thought he's overplaying this immigration thing. They were wrong. Immigration certainly helped the president in the states like Michigan. There was more jobs and trade, but immigration helped. Let's be tough. This is what I don't understand about this 2 years in. He keeps snatching defeat or gridlock from the jaws of victory in the sense that he has every right. He won an election on immigration. Democrats were going to give it to him for DACA.
Right.
There are other ways for him to get much of what he wants. But he won't take it. He walked away from the DACA deal. Now he has, after losing an election, the Democrats now have the House. Right. And he's asking for more than he was asking when the Republicans controlled the House and the Senate. That's contrarian. Now, he's always contrarian. There may be a rabbit out of the hat. He has surprised us before. But it does not fit. If you're looking at this new environment where Nancy Pelosi is Speaker, she's not going to give him $6 billion for his wall. Would she take? If Chuck Schumer said, we're going to cut a deal, you got to give him 2.5 or 3, I don't even know that she would take that to the House Democrats, but that would put pressure on her. If the White House would do a conventional deal and say, give us the money for the beds, give us the money for border, the president is in a strong place on border security.
Until the shutdown.
He's in a weak place on the wall.
Until the shutdown, because where he had the Democrats, as Gloria pointed out, who's not going to give them money for more X-ray detections so that we can stop drugs coming across the border, medical professionals and transportation, so God forbid we find other kids and extremists like the 2 who passed away recently. Maybe they'd have a shot with better resources, maybe not. Those are tough for the Democrats to step aside. But the shutdown has now given them an opportunity to say, reopen the government, then we'll talk. The question is there any chance that happens?
And that's a really important point, because that is a place where the president was incredibly disingenuous, because he said that the shutdown is because Democrats will not fund border security.
Right.
That's just false.
Right.
What the Senate approved, Republicans and Democrats, was over $1 billion in border security. It didn't have the wall,
right,
but it did have border security. So that's just not.
All right, let's just get something straight for the audience right now, because this is one of those things that's literally been bothering me, almost ruined my vacation. There is a barrier system all along the southern border. They need more. Anybody who does the reporting, anybody who talks to the people down there doing the work, the men and women, they need more of what the president is increasingly describing as his own idea for a bollard fence. The bollard, I'm sure they're going to see B-roll at some point tonight of what is on the border right now. It is exactly what the president is describing to you, except he's telling you it's his design. So how are the American people supposed to grasp the reality? He says, I want a new wall. There will be no new wall. The Democrats say he's never going to get his wall. But there is a wall that they have agreed to finance in the past, but they're saying they won't agree to finance a new wall.
And the Democrats are saying it's not necessary because there's other ways to attack the problem that are better. Technology.
But is that true? I have you here for that. Who says that a barrier isn't helpful in securing the border? Does anybody?
Sure. There are real arguments that barriers are helpful in certain locations in certain ways. Many experts argue that we don't need as much wall as Trump suggests. We certainly don't need a 30-foot concrete wall that he originally proposed.
That's gone. That's gone with the Mexico pay-for-it idea.
But is it, though? We don't know. He's said on Twitter, I've never abandoned the all-concrete wall, even while saying as well that it will be a steel slat barrier.
Bet your lunch the concrete wall is gone.
Who knows?
His own proposal asks for, I think, 235 miles of new wall. It's a 2,000-mile border. The governor of Texas would tell you, I'm not going to take land from ranchers. There are land rights issues here. Republican, conservative, federalist, states' rights, land rights issues, where the conservative Republican governor of Texas, no. The Republican governor of Arizona, where is he tonight? Where are the 2 Republican governors tonight echoing the president saying there's a national emergency? They don't agree with him. Now, they agree we should have border security. This is, again, why I don't understand. The president could get more wall, probably get a couple hundred miles of wall. He definitely could have got it when the Republicans controlled the House and the Senate, and Chuck Schumer was ready to make a deal, and the Democrats in the House were powerless to stop it at that point. Now we live in a different world, but I don't understand this guy who loves marketing and loves branding. Build a couple hundred miles of wall, and then have Trump's flying wall. It's drones. Trump's 22nd century wall. It's new technology. And just change it and do the branding. He's a master at that.
But
I think that's what's happening.
I
think that's what's happening.
And his base, he backs
But I think that's what's happening with this evolving definition of what the wall is that gets closer and closer to what's there already. It's clear what he's trying to do is usurp
every time his base
reality.
Says it has to look like this, he backs down.
It has to look like what Trump wants because it's his monument to Trump. He likes buildings. He likes walls, whether they're concrete or whether they're barriers. If he could put the name Trump all over it in gold, he would. but he can't. And
but he has mentioned it. He mentioned it less tonight than we've ever
Not only
heard
did he
him.
mention it
But
less, he explicitly said, I'm going to call it a barrier now.
Right. But he also said at the beginning, and I'd be curious what everyone thinks, he called it a crisis of the heart and a crisis of the soul. And not a political fight. Now, who doesn't have a good heart and who doesn't have a soul here? I mean, and Nancy Pelosi came out and said that he was immoral and that he was full of misinformation and malice. And I mean, these were very strong charges these people were leveling at each other in different ways than we have seen. But a crisis of the heart and a crisis of the soul, have we ever heard that from Donald Trump before?
I think this is the particular group of people he uses to attempt to demonstrate empathy. So he says, you say I don't care about people. Look how I treat these families, these angel families of people killed by illegal immigrants. So I think this is the one group.
This is the heart and the soul.
Yeah, where we have seen him use that
Well,
kind of
let's
rhetoric.
do this.